What is the delay with rolling out? What is standing in your way at the moment, Trent?
So a couple of points. So firstly, community pharmacies were due to be notified on the 19th of March of which pharmacies were successful in becoming access points. Now that's been pushed back to the 12th of April. So we should find out at the end of next week which pharmacies will be able to be providing the COVID-19 vaccine. But as you just heard, the real hold-up in the supply chain is the Therapeutic Goods Administration approving the 2.5 million vaccines that are sitting waiting in the warehouse in Victoria for distribution.
So do you have any information that we don't? Because we've been asking those same questions, Trent, about what CSL is producing and what is actually being administered. Are you any the wiser?
Well, unfortunately, we have great communication channels with both the Commonwealth and the state government, but the information we're getting from the state governments and the Commonwealth seems to, at some level, at least be contradicting itself. So we're hoping that after National Cabinet this Friday, there can be a single source of truth put together, so not just pharmacists but other healthcare providers can receive some transparency in what's actually happening.
What is that contradictory advice that you're receiving? What's the Commonwealth telling you? What are the states telling you?
Yeah, sure. So a good example is, as you all know, you need to get 2 vaccines to be able to be classified as being vaccinated. And so the Commonwealth Government has put some vaccines aside to ensure that those people that have received their first shot, there will be a second shot available for them to receive it. But then we're also receiving reports from state and territory governments that they too are stockpiling vaccine doses to ensure that that second dose is met. So here we have 2.5 million vaccines sitting at the CSL factory in Victoria that are waiting on Therapeutic Goods Administration approval. And then we have 2 other stockpiles of vaccines waiting to ensure that both the Commonwealth and the state governments are trying to make sure that Australians have enough for the second dose. So we just seem to be having a bit of a backlog of vaccines sitting in warehouses rather than being put in people's arms.
Right, okay, so both are stockpiling and both don't need to. The Commonwealth Government has said, well, it's their responsibility, the states, and told the states to stop doing that. But it comes down to trust. The states say they simply don't trust the Commonwealth to be delivering on those. Is that fair enough?
Well, listen, we're not going to get in between state and territory governments. That's for them to sort out on Friday. But what we will say is in the past 7 days, we've had Prime Minister Boris Johnson and President Joe Biden in the United Kingdom and the United States, respectively, saying that a state-controlled mass vaccination clinics have not been successful. And what they have both said is that they will be turbocharging, to use the President's exact words, turbocharging the rollout of community pharmacy-led vaccines. And we just think that that makes sense. And if 2 of our biggest cousins in the OECD are choosing to pivot, stick with their agenda, but pivot to ensure that community pharmacy plays a bigger role, then we think that's only sensible that authorities here in Australia look to do the same thing.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, mass vaccination centres haven't always worked overseas. And if they have worked, they've only worked for a very short amount of time. So you're saying that's not the way to go, but give pharmacies more of responsibility. And you said one of the delays here is that the pharmacies that have applied to do this don't know whether they've been approved to do so. What's the hold up there?
Yeah, you're right. So there are 5,900 community pharmacies in Australia, and 97% of Australians live within 2.5 kilometres of their local community pharmacy. We saw the influenza vaccinations given already this year. That influenza program started 3 weeks ago. And for the first time since 2016, the majority of Australians have chosen a community pharmacy rather than another access point to receive that vaccine. So the hold-up, as you rightly put, was on the 19th of March. We were due to find out which pharmacies Australians would be able to go to get their vaccine. That's been pushed back to the 12th of April. So after the 12th of April, we should be able to publish which of those pharmacies will be access points. But the real hold-up isn't the announcement of which pharmacies are successful. It's the release of those vaccines in warehouses down south.
Well, what will you be doing? What will the pharmacies be doing? They'll be really doing 1B or 2A in the schedule, and Michael Kidd has just said that wasn't due to, the pharmacies weren't due to come online until the middle of June anyway. So are you really that delayed?
So phase 2A has always been when community pharmacies are coming on board. Right. The original vaccination strategy that the Department of Health released in January didn't have pharmacy participating. Minister Hunt intervened and ensured that community pharmacies were, so we thank him for that. However, the original January timeframe had Australians receiving COVID-19 vaccines from pharmacy in May, and that now has been pushed back to June.